Baltimore Aboisai, that Parshas Bereishis is usually, the week of Parshas Bereishis is usually cut off by Simchas Torah. And you don't get a full week to focus on the Parsha, to do Shnai Mikra. But this week we do. So this year we have a full week of Parshas Bereishis, and I got to look a little bit into Rashi. And when it talks about Cain and Hevel, it's a fascinating thing, because Cain was the first murderer. That's him. He didn't even know how to kill. At the end of the story, Cain is stabbing Hevel in all parts of his body. He didn't even know how to kill someone, and the animals looked at this creature, this Cain, and said, "You're just like us. They lost all the ema for Cain, and Cain davened, and Hashem put the ema of human beings back on animals so that they wouldn't kill him." How did Cain go from being the son of Adam HaRishon? He was born in Gan Eden, and now he's as low as the animals? What happened? I think in order to find the answer for this, we have to look at the source. And the Gra tells us that the origins, the first time that something is mentioned in the Torah, that's where you can find its teichen, you can find its intrinsicness, if that's a word. And Cain begins. He's born, and then the first thing he does, we say that Hevel was the pasuk first says that Cain was working with the ground, Oived Adama, which could mean worship the ground, but he was working with the ground, and Hevel was working with the sheep. He was a royal tzoyin. Now the ground was just cursed. On Yom Shishi, after the Chet, the Baruch Shalom cursed the ground. Or Adama. And yet he chose to work with that. But I think we can understand where the first turn went wrong with Cain that led him down this path. Shepherding has always been a holy job. We know that the greatest songs come out of shepherds. We have the Shiva Royim, David HaMelech, Rabbi Akiva. We know all these people. They're the huge Moshe Rabbeinu Yaakov. But what is shepherding? Shepherding is when you take an animal out to pasture. You take care of the animals. You shech them. They're food. They have milk, they have wool. The Sifsei Chaim points out that at this point in history we weren't allowed to eat animals. So the reason why Hevel was doing it was not for shechita. His business was in the milk and in the wool. Cain, on the other hand, was gardening. What is gardening? What is growing? When you take from the ground, that's what it is. You take from the ground. This is the idea that Rav Dessler teaches us, that someone who gives is a growing person. Someone who takes won't grow at all. And Cain chose to be the taker. True that you take the animals out, and the end goal is to be able to make a parnas off of it. But what you're doing every day is you're taking care of animals. There's even a relationship. But with the Adama, you're just taking. And that led to the ultimate taking, and he ended up taking life. I heard someone yesterday say, during a fiery discussion, he said, it's my right. I said, Nachon, it is your right. And as an American, you have your rights, but as a Yid, you have your obligations. Come back, you want to talk to me when you want to talk about what our obligations are, not what our rights are. So that's what a Yid is. Yid is someone who gives. I'll tell you a little story about the Brisker Rav. There's a Yid who came to the town of Brisk, and just to understand who the Brisker Rav was, he had an open door policy. The people would walk in and out, no problem. Someone once asked him, "Why do you even have a door on your house?" And he said, maybe for the mitzvah mezuzah, but otherwise there was no point to that door. Someone even once came in and took a couple of svarim off of his shelf and walked out. A few days later, came back in, took some more and walked out. And after a week, he came in and literally took the svarim shrunk and walked out of the house. His house was absolutely hefker. This Rav Chaim Brisk. And when he wasn't in shul, when he wasn't in his capacity as the Rav, he would walk around the town even without his jacket. He'd take his jacket off and just think and learn and go for a walk. And someone new to the town came to visit and sees this Yid walking around. He didn't know who he was. There were no pictures in those days like that. So he just got off the train with his big suitcases, and he says, Ravid, can you help me carry my suitcases to my host? It's not a crazy thing to ask. I mean, if it's not the Gadol Hadar. And Rav Chaim said, sure, of course, no problem. It's a chesed, why not? And he walks him to the edge of town, and he gets to the neighborhood. He says, okay, I think my house is up the block. Can you carry my stuff up the block? And he said, sure. And he picks up these gigantic suitcases again. He says, like, really, I would carry them, but I'm so tired from the trip, so I really appreciate it. Thank you. And Chaim's mom schlepping the big stuff. And they get up to his front lawn, and he said, can you carry them to the door for me? He says, no. So, no? So, no. Fine. Be that way. And Chaim left him there. 2 days later, his host says, you want to go visit the Rav of the town? He says, sure. And I'm sure you already guessed. The guy sees Rav Chaim and he turns white and he's shaking. He says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. He says, what do you mean? It was a chesed. You gave me an opportunity to give you. People normally don't ask me to help them. This is very nice. I appreciate it. He says, why didn't you, if you're doing this chesed, why didn't you carry it to the front door too? Chaim says, think for a minute. The door opens, and your host sees you and the Gadol Hadar, the Rav of the town, schwitzing buckets carrying your suitcase. How would you feel? You did a complete chesed. That's what a giver is. That's what we're all aiming to do. Be'ez Hashem, we should be zeichet to be givers and focus on our obligations and what we can give to each other. And Be'ez Hashem, we should have a true arevus and simchas chaim and a good Shabbos. Arevim kol Yisroel, Arevim kol Yisroel, Arevim kol Yisroel zelo zeh. Arevim kol Yisroel, Arevim kol Yisroel, Arevim kol Yisroel zelo zeh, zelo zeh. Arevim, 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 zelo zeh, zelo zeh, zebo zeh, zebo zeh. Kol Yisrael, Arevim, 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 zelo zeh, zelo zeh, zebo zeh, zebo zeh. Kol Yisrael. Good Shabbos.